Okay, so I am going to tell you what are my 15 most anticipated new releases for 2024. This list goes from January releases through September. I don't really have many books on my radar past September because we're still waiting on publishers to announce some of those. So I'm going to go in order from publish date, January through September, my top anticipated reads. First up is absolutely going to be Kristen Dwyer's new book, The Atlas of Us. I read her book, her debut book, which is Some Mistakes Were Made, and absolutely loved it. It touched on a family drama and it just had so much emotion. I loved that book so much. I read it twice the first year it came out. So this is her second book that she's written. It is not a part of a series or anything. It's just her second book that she wrote. Another book that I am super excited to get to, and this one's kind of special because this author is from Arkansas, which is where I am at. Ayanna Gray wrote the Beast of Prey trilogy, and the third book in that series, Beast of War, comes out January. So I can't wait. I've read book 1 and I've read book 2. Loved both of them. And it's a young adult fantasy series. So I'm excited to get to that one and wrap that series up and support a fellow Arkansas author. This next book I know is going to be on a lot of people's radar, and I think it'll probably be on several people's list for most anticipated releases this year. It's Sarah J. Maas's A House of Flame and Shadow, which is book 3 of her Crescent City series. So I am a Trash for Maas fan. I have read all of her Throne of Glass series, all of her Akator series, and both of the Crescent Cities. So I am dying. I'm actually going to be going to a midnight release party. It's my first midnight release party, but I'm going to go to it tonight, and the book comes out tomorrow as of me filming this. So I am so excited. I have my plans cleared off. I will be diving into that one right away. I love her writing style and her series, and if you know, you know. I can't wait. That's definitely a top release of this year. Next is one that comes out in February, and this is Bride by Ali Hazelwood. So if you're familiar with Ali Hazelwood, she writes a lot of romance books set in the STEM academia world. It usually focuses with women in STEM and romance. I have read all of her books, and they are just adorable romance. They tend to have a little bit of steam in them. But this book that's coming out, Bride, is a little bit different. This is going to be her first fantasy novel, and that's really all I know besides this cover, which has the wolf on it. I am just here for it. I love when authors step outside of their genres and try something different. So I think this will be a fun February mix-up for her. I'm excited to give it a go. Last year, I read A Dowry of Blood by S.T. Gibson and loved it. It was one of my top books of the year in 2023, and she has two books coming out this year, both which will be on this list, but the first one is called An Education in Malice, and it comes out in February as well. And this one is based on the blurb. I think that we may see some characters from A Dowry of Blood, if you read that one, in this book, but I'm not sure how strong of a plot line they will have. But this is going to be set in like dark academia setting. Knowing her, I expect some fantasy elements, I expect some dark elements, and maybe some various levels of spice and LGBTQ plus relationships. Maybe even a poly relationship like she did in A Dowry of Blood. But I cannot wait, because like I said, Dowry of Blood was a new one for me. It was my first book by her last year, and it was such a pleasant surprise. So I can't wait to dive into this one. And my book club on Instagram, which is called Live with Coco and Chi, so it is our book club pick for April of this year. So even though it comes out in February, I probably won't be reading this one until April so that we can discuss it over on my Instagram. So if you want to read it and join in the conversation of that, the details to my Instagram will be below. This next book is also going to be one of our book club picks. My co-host Chi is the one who picked this one. So it is A Fate Inked in Blood by Daniel Jensen. I've read one of Daniel Jensen's books before. She wrote the Bridge Kingdom series, which is a duology, and then she had a spin-off second duology with different main characters. So I read the first two books, but I haven't read the third and fourth book of that series, related series. But I loved the books that I read, A Bridge Kingdom and the second one. Those were really fresh, great settings, fantasy series with some romance in there, which if you're catching a drift is absolutely my jam. So I am very thrilled to read this one. So A Fate Inked in Blood is going to be Vikings. And that is really the most that I know about that is Vikings and Daniel Jensen. So I'm expecting some really great world building, some really great romance, really to be immersed in a Viking setting. Looking forward to it. Next, a book I am itching to get my hands on. I already have this one pre-ordered through Audible, and I'm probably going to pre-order a hardback copy of it too for my shelves because it's going to be, I just already know it's going to be a top book of the year. This is The Empire of the Damned by Jay Kristoff. And I read Empire of the Vampire, which is book one of that series. I read it last year and devoured it. It was just so good. It's a new take on vampires, so I kind of have like a love-hate relationship with vampires. This one's all love. It is a thick book. It has illustrations throughout, and it's just completely immersive. I could not stop reading it. I read it in print, and then I also did the audio because it is a really big book, and so audios helped me get through those. And I loved the narrator so much. So I know that I want to do this one on audio, but I'm also going to get the physical book because I need to see those illustrations because they are so beautiful. But I love Jay Kristoff. I've read his Nevernight series, his Illuminae series, his Aurora. I've read a lot of his work. Empire of the Vampire is very on the adult sector of his books, an adult fantasy, and it's going to be a wild ride. So that is a highly anticipated release this year for me, is to get my hands on Empire of the Damned. Now, to mix up my genres a little bit, I love that this kind of coordinates too with like spring publish dates, because I love to read romance in the summer. There's something about them that are just light and breezy and fun. And one of my favorite romance authors is Abby Jimenez, and she has a new book coming out called Just for the Summer. I go into her books completely blind, other than knowing that it's a romance. So one of my friends had recommended to her books to me several years ago, and I fell in love. I read her entire backlist. I've read all the books that she has out so far, and each one of them is completely unique romance stories, and they just sweep me away. I love how they usually feature some type of cute pet that's like a prominent side character to her books. But she just nails dialogue so well, and I just love her books. So I will be looking forward to getting my hands on a copy of that for this spring. Okay, the next book on this list, I am not 100% confident if it's going to come out this year. It is Heavenly Tyrant, which is book 2 to the Iron Widow series by Jiren J. Zhao. And I may not be saying their name right, but that author had posted on their Instagram a few weeks ago that there may be some issues with the publishing house, and so this book may not come out this year. I wanted to leave it on this list because I have been dying for the sequel to Iron Widow ever since I finished it, and it's been kind of a longer gap between books as it is, as that sometimes happens with publishing. So it is a highly anticipated release, and I want to put it on here, and I hope that it still comes out when it's scheduled to. But the author did say on their Instagram that there may be a holdup and it could get pushed back to 2025. So I'm gonna leave it on here since it's highly anticipated, but let's hope. This next book is called The Last Murder at the End of the World by Stuart Turton. So Stuart wrote The 7.5 Deaths of Evelyn Hardcastle and The Devil in the Dark Water. Those are both standalone books, and The Last Murder at the End of the World, this new one, is a standalone as well. I have loved Stuart's books. They are a little bit different than my usual reading style and tend to be more like adult literary fiction with a hint of mystery to it. So this book is going to be about the last of humanity. They are on an island, and all I really know is that there's something to do with AI technology that goes wrong or awry, maybe not wrong, but that there's a murder that has to be solved or else humanity's going to die, the last of humanity. So it's set like futuristic, maybe dystopian, utopian. I'm a sucker for like AI gone wrong and that like sci-fi element of books. I just think that that's fascinating, and that's like on the brink of, perhaps where things are going. So even though this book has like a really bright and colorful cover and art, I feel like it's gonna have some dark elements to it, and I'm here for that. So that is definitely on my list. This next book comes out at the end of May. It's Evocation by S.T. Gibson. So this is the second book that she has coming out in 2024. And this one I really don't know much about, other than I think it's supposed to have maybe an entourage cast, so multiple characters, and that's really it, other than the cover art and that it looks great. So I'm expecting fantasy, and because S.T. Gibson is a favorite author of mine, I'm just here for it. So this one made my list instantly. As we get to the July releases, I have two that are coming out in July that I am very hyped for. So one is a graphic novel series by Cami Garcia and Gabrielle Piccolo. It is the Teen Titans series, and this one is going to be Teen Titans Starfire. I have read each one of these books. It starts with Raven. I think there's Raven, Beast Boy Loves Raven, and then Robin, and now Starfire. So this is the fifth one in this graphic novel series, and it is so cute. I adore it. I have two teenage boys, 13 and 15, and they love Teen Titans, and we kind of bonded over this series when it first came out because they were familiar with Teen Titans and they liked graphic novels. But then this was a story that I, as an adult, could also connect to, and it was just done so well. The storyline is flawless and flows through the panels beautifully, and then the illustrations are just, so it's a favorite graphic novel series that I look forward to every year, or every year that one comes out. So I'm really excited to get Starfire and her story and to continue on our set with this, and that's one we're looking forward to as a household. My other July release that's coming out is Break to You by Neil Shusterman. I just came across this book on NetGalley the other day and put a request in, which I was denied for. So I'm not going to be getting an early copy. I will be waiting and reading it with everybody in July. But I love Neil's books. I've read his Scythe series, and I also read his book Dry. I have other of his books on my TBR as well. But like I said, I came across this one. I wasn't aware he had a new release coming out this year, so that was exciting to see. From what I recall about the blurb, this had something to do with incarceration or some type of incarceration between two teens. I think it was two teens that correspond with each other somehow. So I'm thinking it's going to be a contemporary fiction novel, but I haven't read much about the blurb about it. This is another author that I love and trust and follow, and I'll just read and go along for whatever journey he wants to take me on. As I'm going through these, I realize that I have several books that are part of series that are continue. So the next on my list is going to be the third book in Adeline Grace's Belladonna series. It's called Wisteria. It's hard to talk about this one without giving you spoilers for book 2. So I will just say that if you've read this series, it's a gothic murder mystery young adult fantasy series with hints of romance in there as well. And this is the third and I believe the final book. And if you've read book 2 and you know how it ends, those characters are going to be the focus of book 3. So that's really all I can say about it. But it is such a fun and lush and beautiful series. I'm looking forward to it. And last but not least on my list is a book by one of my favorite authors, TJ Klune. So he is coming out with this sequel to The House in the Cerulean Sea. This book is called Somewhere Beyond the Sea. So House in the Cerulean Sea was a standalone for the longest. It's written to kind of be a standalone. But the book, if you've read that book, it's so easy to fall in love with those characters, and I am dying for more to see where they are now, what's happened, or just even just where we pick up. I don't even know where on the timeline we're going to get, if it's going to be right after that book ended or in the future or what. But I am so thrilled to just be back in that world to see those characters. I love TJ Klune. I've loved every book that I've read of his. And so when I realized that this book was coming out this year, it comes out in September, instant pre-order list. It's one I am thrilled to see. So these are 15 books that I am super hyped to read in 2024, that come out in 2024. We'll see if any more publishers drop some. I'm sure they are, of ones that's, for October, November, and December. But let me know which books off my list are also on your list, or if you have some that I missed that I need to be checking out. Let me know what books you're excited for that come out this year.